So I posted the song that I made in my last video on TikTok, and someone heard it and thought it sounded kind of like Trippie Redd's song, I Tried Loving, and they asked me to try to make a song like that. So that's just what I did. Here's a little preview of what the final track sounds like.
Leave a suicide note on a coupe door. I don't got nothing to recoup for. Guess I got a lot to blame a bitch for. Went and broke my heart, but what a bitch for. I'm trying to figure out if this is real. I don't really like the way it feels.
If you have heard the song before, you know that it starts with this like church bell thing. And I thought part of his comment was that like the beginning in my song sounded kind of like this song. So I thought I'd really lean into that church bell. So I went and found myself a literal church bell sample to try to turn into that intro synth sound. It started with this really pretty aggressively loud bell sound here. You know, clearly just a bell. And I threw on a little bit of EQ and took out some harsh frequencies, which smoothed it out a little bit. Put it on a kind of aggressive compressor just to squeeze it down a little, and then one more EQ to pull a little bit the lows and mids out, and I went up here. Just a lot more controlled, a little bit more like a usable instrument. So I thought, still those nice resonances of a bell, thought it would be more authentic than trying to make it in Serum or anything like that. So yeah, I took this, resampled it into an instrument, and then played around a little bit with some melodies until I came up with, again, something super simple, but pretty inspired by Trippie Redd rhythmically. So this is what I got for the bell melody. From there, I needed to basically just get some drums that fit this style. I sort of searched through all my samples because this isn't really a style of music I make very often. Actually, never. This is my first time ever trying to make anything like this. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I should make more. I guess it was fun. It was cool to try. But yeah, so I went and found like kind of a good clicky snare. Not too long of a tail, not too much of a punch to it. A very bassy short kick. I think I even shortened up the sample I was working with a bit more. Yeah, so I cranked up this out. So before I had that longer tail, a little bit more of a, I guess like house feel maybe. But this I feel like gives it the punch and the bass and the presence I'm looking for without having too much of that tail get in the way of the eventual 808 I brought in. Brought a nice splashy crash. That one feels pretty organic. And then these classic trap hi-hats. Oh yeah, you might have heard these little perks I threw into just to give it a little bit more bounce. It was feeling a little bit empty without those. So yeah, I came up with nice little bouncy drum groove. And then as the song progresses, I layer in mirrored sounds just on the same pattern, but the whole drum groove is literally just this. So then I was thinking it still kind of felt a little empty. I know I was going to put vocals on top of it, but I wanted just something to kind of fill some places in the arrangement. So I pulled the same bell instrument and I filtered it a little bit more. So yeah, I threw a fruity filter on this same bell sample and brought a little bit more reverb in on it, just to kind of put it in a slightly different space without it being too completely different, which I feel like kind of gave it a little bit more energy, a little bit more movement, but still hopefully wasn't too busy. So those two together. So, you know, it's nothing insane, but I think it sort of helped wrap everything together. From there, I just super simple followed the eighth notes with an 808, which I think this is from one of Kyle Beats' packs early on. Got a good little bit of crunch to it. I didn't do much to change it. I think I EQ'd it a tiny bit and then, yeah, compressed it a bit here too. One last thing, I guess, is in the intro. I used the same bell instrument, reversed it, and turned it into a little bit of a swell. But yeah, here's the full loop of the instrument parts. But now the real bread and butter of if you want to sound like really any artist, it's going to come down a lot to what your vocal chain's up to, a little bit about your delivery. I don't necessarily think that Trippie Redd's delivery is in my wheelhouse, so it's probably not the truest representation of how to sound like Trippie Redd. But I can at least go through the vocal chain, sort of talk about how it is I got the sound that I did with the voice that I do have. It took me a really long time to come up with lyrics for this too, because like I said, I never make this kind of music. So I don't know, it's always fun to try new things, challenge myself, and I thought it'd be cool to have one of those TikToks where I reply to a comment that's like, please try making a song like this, and then I do it. I don't know, hopefully I don't disappoint the guy, but shout out to that guy. I think his name was Will. But anyway, this was my raw vocal, and I'll go through maybe piece by piece or something just to break down how I brought this vocal.
Leave a suicide note on a coupe door. I don't got nothing to recoup for.
To this.
Leave a suicide note on a coupe door. I don't got nothing to recoup for. Guess I got a lot to blame a bitch for. Went and broke my arm, but what a bitch for.
So the first thing in my chain here is pitcher. It's just, you know, the stock FL Studio, kind of like auto-tune. You can also use new tone, but that's more like a Melodyne where you'll adjust each note, transitions and variants and stuff. But this one just kind of does it all by itself. I've got it not quite all the way up, so that avoids it being fully that robotic, forceful auto-tune. This is what it sounds like. Absolutely floored here.
Leave a suicide note on a coupe door.
It's just a little bit smoother in between.
Leave a suicide note on a coupe door.
Gives me a little bit more wave, feels a little bit more human. But yeah, that's just to lock it into the key, which in this case was A minor, bringing the poorly sung notes back to somewhere closer to where we want them to be. And then I put TDR Nova. This is another free plugin, third party. And what this is a dynamic EQ, so it's really cool because it's basically like a compressor on just one frequency range. So here I've got this frequency selected somewhere around like 4,500 hertz probably. And just like all compressors, you've got your threshold and your ratio for the amount of compression you want to apply. And it's just going to happen to this 4,500, 5,000 hertz range. So that's right where an S sibilance happens to sit. So this is a really good way to kind of cut down those like harsh S's so you don't have them ringing out in like a reverb or biting through a compressor. So with the de-esser, you'll see this start ducking as the S's come out.
Leave a suicide note on a coupe door.
So you can see it's pretty aggressive. I mean, it's really pulling it down, and that's going to affect other sounds also. But I happen to like the way it was on this setting, so I didn't worry about it too much. So up next in the chain, I had some really basic EQ. I just chopped out the lows. I had it set around 250, tapering down to 100. So pretty hard cut, just getting rid of all the bassiness in my voice so it wasn't fighting with the bass itself. And a light boost up above 2,500 hertz and a little bit more above 5,500. And that just really brings out kind of like the brightness and the enunciation a little bit more with that.
Leave a suicide note on a coupe door.
So you can feel it got a little bit thinner because I took all that bass out, but it's definitely much more clear when you hear it in the full mix. So this plugin here is Pitch Shifter, and this is where I did my Foreman shifting because, again, I don't sound anything like Trippie Redd. So I didn't drag it too much. A little bit goes a long way with these things. But yeah, I brought it down. It looks like 2.05 semitones.
Leave a suicide note on a coupe door.
So now I've got another compressor. This one's not just on one frequency range. It's just a full compressor. I just kind of played around with the default presets until I found something I liked. Pretty strong ratio, a little bit of a longer release here, and then this soft compression type. And then I bumped it up 3 dB for like a recovery. My good friend, the Sound Goodizer, I put just a tiny bit on here, tiny bit on the setting A. Again, I think it just kind of helps brighten it up, help it punch through the mix a little more. And then I threw on a little bit of Fruity Chorus. I think this is just straight up on the default setting. And I brought it way down in the mix here.
Leave a suicide note on a coupe door.
It doesn't do a ton, but the chorus just kind of helps put it in a new space, give it a little bit of dimension. I threw on one more limiter here just to get the gain up even a little bit higher after I'd squished it so much with the compressors. And then again, a pretty light reverb. I think this is the large hall setting. And then the Fruity Delay 3, I just synced up to, I think this is roughly a quarter note, but this is what it sounds like, all fully affected.
Leave a suicide note on a coupe door. I don't got nothing to recoup for.
Then from there, all I had to do was add a little bit of ad-lib action, which I had also never done. So I just did a couple calls and responses. I threw little like riff things in. And then, you know, just a little run here. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much my best stab at trying to sound like Trippie Redd, or at least trying to make a song like his I Tried Loving. Leave a comment, let me know what you want to see me try next. If you like the video, leave a like. If you really like the video, think about hitting that subscribe button. I'm on the road to my first 100 subscribers, so you could be in the very exclusive club of my first 100 YouTube subscribers for just the cost of clicking a button. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you, so let's take a listen to the final track, and I'll see you guys next week.
Leave a suicide note on a coupe door. I don't got nothing to recoup for. Guess I got a lot to blame a bitch for. Went and broke my heart, but what a bitch for. I'm trying to figure out if this is real. I don't really like the way it feels. Everybody rolling up their bill, cut another line to make it heal. Thought you said forever, but you up and ran away. Tryna fill your place, booty up, booty, yeah. Netflix and chillin' just hasn't been the same. These bitches from the internet could never take your place. Leave a suicide note on a coupe door.